You can't blame nobody else but yourself, because you have the power to transform your life in the way that you choose. Welcome back to Falling Forward with the Ross Sisters. I'm Dr. Christine Ross. We got our girl Deidré Gordon up in here as our guest. And here's Sis, of course, Carm as she goes by, but I call her Sis. So we're here talking about help. Help in all kinds of forms. Getting help, asking for help, giving help. So what's the first thing that comes to you guys' mind when you're talking about people getting help, you giving help, whatever? What pops in y'all heads?
Giving somebody money, because I think that's like a lot of people when they're asking for help, a lot of time that involves money.
Well, what is the appropriate denomination that you can be helpful? Because I feel like one thing, remember our friend Kirsten Hamilton, she used to say, and I love this, don't help somebody with more money than you're willing to lose.
Right.
So if you're not willing to lose that amount of money, and you're going to be all upset, greasy, I don't want to talk to you, we ain't friends, then that's your limit of that dollar amount. Now, some of this reveals that you just ain't no giving, generous person. And that's okay. If you do you, boo. Like, that's between you and your people, or whoever you keep you accountable, whoever you're kept accountable by. But I think it is important, one, to be giving, but also to know your limits if you're going to be giving financially, more specifically.
Yes, that's very true. When I think of help, I think of like acts of service. People call me for advice, or they want me to do something. It's not necessarily asking for money, but it's like, can you do this? Can you help me with this? What do you think about this?
And she has a busy schedule. She's doing everything all the time.
And I've gotten to where I'm resentful a little bit, because I'm like, do y'all just wake up like, I need to get my air conditioning fixed. Let's call Deidré and see if she knows how to do it. I'm like, y'all really think I know how to do a lot of things? And this is my box over here.
You like, I might know somebody who knows somebody, so I might be able to hook you up. But to that point, because I'll call you too, I'll be like, okay, Deidré, tell me if I'm wrong. And that's usually how it starts. Tell me if I'm wrong about this. X, Y, and Z happened. This is what, because I ain't just gonna give you what they said. I'm gonna tell you what I said, so that you get the full scope. And then sometimes, depending on who I'm talking to, I'm unhelpable by the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do nothing.
Can't do that.
After you sent that last text, Jesus can only help you now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep, and I have to clarify why sometimes, because you don't want to cross the enabling thing too much, So I know that not only do I give what I can afford, I don't want to sacrifice my home life for someone's home life especially if they're chronically not doing and holding down their life. So I don't want to sacrifice and take something away from my kids or my plate if you're not going to do right about it. Because some people take the fishing pole and fish, some people take the fish. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that if they only take the fish, you know that you're enabling them.
Yep.
If they take the fishing pole, they want to learn and want to grow from their experiences, so they don't have to ask nobody else. Mm-hmm.
I think it also depends on where the person is in their space. Because sometimes they take the fish because that's all they can do in that moment. So I think that sometimes maybe we need to offer some grace with that. Mm-hmm. If they're always taking the fish,
yeah, they're chronic. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But it's also knowing that person too, because some people, depending on disabilities, issues, whatever, for that particular thing, they may not be able to ever fish it. However, let's do a disclaimer. That is not 99.9% of the people. Most of the people are able to take that fishing pole and fish. However, if you gonna do it for me, why should I be doing it? It's how they kind of looking at
there's some people like that, and they're not gonna change until they want to change. And sometimes you can get caught up with them, and then you want to get mad at that person. You know that they were gonna do that, so why are you mad at them? So it just can get very carried away.
Well, and I think to that point, there is limits on the amount of help that you should give, However, that limit is individualized.
Yes.
It is not this blanket limit. And it's really kind of be looking at the whole scope of things. One, what is your own capacity?
Yes.
So if you're already at capacity, at this point, you over here treading water to keep yourself. You don't have any business then over here opening up your table, open up your home all the time, because you're at a deficiency at that point. But I think that's even going to that piece of looking at giving help or getting help. Some people need to pay attention to their own space, to their, like Carmen had mentioned, that I'm not about to let you take from my family. I'm taking care of my house and home first, which even goes to the point, not allowing people to steal your joy. So if you're going to help, you need to be a cheerful giver.
Yep.
If you can't be cheerful about it, then you need to back up and say no.
Yep,
Period.
right.
I can't do it. I don't have the capacity. I don't have the space for it. And some people feel like saying no is a hurtful word, if I can speak today. But no is a boundary.
Absolutely. A necessary boundary.
Right. And you
Yes.
what I learned about saying no is because I tend to over explain myself a lot. So I'm working personally on, I don't have to explain everything I do to everybody. I don't owe them that. If the answer is no, not at this time, or however I say it, it has to be no.
Well, and it kind of goes to that point. Our daddy used to always tell us that it's easier to turn a no to a yes than a yes to a no. So if you're, especially people who are people pleasers, your first answer needs to be no. Just out of habit. Like me and Deidré were talking about earlier. I said when my nephew was staying at my house, when I was helping raise my nephew, sometimes he asked me a question, I say no, and I'm like, hold on, what you say? Oh, never mind, you can have that. As a matter of fact, grab me a candy bar too.
Yeah,
Sure.
you know what?
Yeah.
That will make you comfortable with saying no. Because it's about being comfortable saying it. And because like you said, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I know you're struggling, but I really am not able to do this at this moment. Or whatever it is. Let's say that you have somebody with substance abuse problems in your family or friends or anything like that. You don't want to give them money all the time because you know that they're the addicts. They're not themselves, so they might not make the best decision with it. So normally in those situations, I purchase whatever they need. I do not give them a penny.
Yeah, you want some food?
Right.
I'll get you some food. You want some clothes? I'll get you some clothes. But I'm not. And at the end of the day, can people still change that and be like, well, I'm upon this or whatever? Yeah, but I'm not gonna make it easy for you to get something to yourself that's harmful to you.
Absolutely. Certain things, especially when you're asking someone something, Google is your friend. Please Google first before asking me. Because all I'm going to do is Google. So, on the same phone that you use to call somebody to ask them, do your due diligence. Try to find it yourself.
You are right about that, but sometimes in order for me to socialize, I would ask that person that question because, let's say that you're chilling and you're with your friends and you don't have much to say, you want to talk about a topic. Yes, I can Google it and find the answers, but I enjoy talking with you about the answers,
Yes.
So it could be different.
And in conversation, that makes sense.
Yeah, but just in general, it's just don't be asking somebody just because you being lazy.
Right, that's the problem.
And I will reframe lazy that you're choosing not to exert the effort. It sounds more friendly.
Yeah.
Because moms at times let me tell you, I love my mother, dearest.
We all love her.
But when I was in college in New Mexico State, mama would call me talking about how you use the remote controller.
Well, you know what? I got a call 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm here thinking it's emergency. The TV's not working.
So why you calling me?
Go to bed then. That's the sign that God is saying go to bed.
God is trying to tell you something.
Y'all not gonna do Miss Carol. Y'all not gonna do Miss Carol.
No, we ain't putting her on blast, and we didn't even say the name until now.
I'm sorry.
You did give her
Your other mama.
Okay.
Okay. That's somebody else's mama. No, but to that point, as much as we love mama, sometimes she be asking help for things that she just got to read the directions.
Yeah, but sometimes, I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes I be a little lazy and I ask Christine a question. Because it's easier.
That's
You
true.
right.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, I got so much on my plate, I can make a 5-minute conversation to Christine, opposed to making a 20-minute research project when I'm on crunch time. So I think sometimes it's appropriate to we're not saying cut the corners, but
Yeah.
to ask directly to
And I feel like it depends on how often it happens too. So if you could, because I think all of us get in our modes in which we are struggling to do some basic steps, and it could be for a variety of reasons: overwhelm, just busy doing other things that, even though we know this is very small, it's still a small thing you add into a big old a pile already of what you're already doing. But I think it's I guess it's looking at that give and take. Is there reciprocity within that relationship that you feel like, when I'm really in that needy mood, you're there for me, but then I change seasons. Right. So everybody don't have a season change. All y'all got friends that do not change their season. Okay. And at times you need to change their season for them by removing yourself from their whatever season they choose to be in at that time, because it gets exhausting. Like, me and Carmen had a friend a while back that we used to roll with this person all the time in our late teens, early 20s. 15, 20 years later, you realize this is the same person.
15 years ago.
Yes.
So you got to evaluate your friends, and that's important for you. It's not about hurting people's feelings. It's about growth.
Yes.
And sometimes you're there to help the person. But some people, if, like she said, 15 years, you're telling me that you're the exact same person, you need to ask for help. And that means that you're not able to do it by yourself.
For real. Yeah.
And knowing that period is like, if I'm still asking for the same things from when I'm a teenager as an adult,
there's a need not being met.
There is a need not being met. But I like what my grandma used to say: from 18 or 17 and below, your parents have the choices as to what happens in your life. 18 and above, the only person you can blame for your life and the choices that are made in your life, whether you're still following your parents, friends, whoever, is you.
Absolutely.
You can't blame nobody else but yourself, because you have the power to transform your life in the way that you choose.
Okay. Say that. Okay, Grandma.
But asking for help can be really, really hard. There's shame with it sometimes, embarrassment. You don't want people to know your business. So it's a humbling moment when you have to ask for help and you're down in your luck. Especially if you're one of those people that, I'm not going to say prideful is sort of a negative word, but some people have too much pride to ask for help. So when they're in need, they rather struggle when they got friends and family and people that care for them that do not mind stepping in. But if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
You can't assume that these people are going to automatically know your needs without you telling them what your needs are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, sometimes asking for help comes with labels. If someone finds out that you're seeking help, they may start labeling you like, oh, she's crazy, or what's wrong with her, or, that's from the devil. Like, no, if you need help, you need help.
Yeah, and that gets me speaking about... I had experience, like when she's mentioned, is that the devil? Like with me, I deal with mental illness, and like I have a couple of diagnoses, so I have to fight hard, double time every day I feel in my life. And I'm not comparing it to anybody, but I say double time more than I would like to.
Right.
So I reached out to my church after a certain situation, and this church basically kicked me off the worship team. They kicked me off of everything, and I was reaching for help. That's the time to get mentored, to get prayed, to get calls, to lift up and support. But then I left the church for 10 years. And then I realized that I cannot judge the church based on people, because nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. But when I was asking for help, I was at my bottom, my low. And the church was not there for me. I'm not saying that's every church, because there's churches that's been there for me. Real talk. I'm not saying that. But the hurt from asking for help or reaching out, or someone knowing that you need assistance, the hurt that comes with, hey, I'm really down and out, and you're just abandoning me, That's some hard stuff to deal with.
So wait, let me clarify. You asked the church for help, and they essentially just sat you down and was like, "Go away."
Well, I was reaching out for help with my actions, I would say. So when it came to it, they just was like, you know what? We just can't have you a part of this with nothing else. They just like left it, they didn't hear no word from them ever since that day.
Well,
Wow.
and I think to that point,
That's awesome.
especially people in religious communities going to church, mosque, wherever you choose to go, I feel like that's not necessarily uncommon because for whatever reason, and for me, I can only speak for Christianity. So now, truth in advertisement, I am a huge Christian. I am 100% a believer. I follow Christ, but I am also the biggest critic of the church. And it's actually due to the situation that Carmen faced. And we were both at that same church. We were Carmen's a couple of years older than me. So I was probably like teens, early 20s. Carmen's, a couple of years older than me with that. But it's just like, this is the perception at times that people get from the church is the Bible says that we're all sinners and fall short for the glory of God. Which means your stuff stank, your stuff stank, my stuff stank. So for you to sit there and tell anybody, well, your troubles are too hard for the church to bear, I don't know what God you serve, but it certainly ain't the one I serve because yours is a little more limited than
Maybe
mine.
that church needs to ask for help.
But it did crush my willingness to trust people within the church, but it did not crush my faith. I did walk away, and I could have been better at my faith with the support, but I was wounded. Church wounds are hurtful because you really go there, you expect them to have it together more than anybody. And I know it's not right for any of us to think that way because she said, that we are all sinners. We all got stinky stuff. But we just have to, I don't know. Because a lot of people say you can pray some things away. And God has some people that are like therapists that are put in front of you to help you, and that is part of that prayer, answering that prayer. But we think that God's only going to communicate over miracles when he sets things in place so we can grow and we can learn.
And you can have a therapist and still pray.
Exactly, 100%. Because like at the end of the day, you can get insight from anybody. But like for you, Deidré, I would say, what does it look like at the times that you have to be like, okay, Lord, I don't know what's going on over here, but I need to go talk to your girl over here, my therapist or whoever. What does that end up looking like for you?
I talk to God all the time. I have these conversations. I know people probably think I'm talking to myself, but I do talk to God all the time about almost anything. And I feel like the closer that I get to him, the more he's like, girl, you need help. So I also talk to my therapist quite often.
Yes, because to help that.
Right, because also, when I do talk to God, the Holy Spirit tells me a lot of things, and I am trying to get better, and so I ask for that accountability, and boy, does it come. And so then I work it out with my therapist, like, okay, look, how much time do we have? Because I need to work on this, and this, and this. And she's like, whoa, let's one thing at a time. But it's a process, and I feel like it's a lifelong journey.
It really is, because I feel like some of the stuff that I dealt with 20 years ago, I don't deal with now. It's just like I've learned from that, but even my thinking of how I did it 20 years ago has evolved, that I'm like, you know what, maybe I need to look at it in this other way. And I think even when we talk about the topic of help, not just with the church, but also looking at communities that have been put down, like the Black community, Latinx community, Native community, when we're talking about help from those aspects, it looks a lot different because essentially we came out of slavery.
Right.
This is why we are here in this country, because our ancestors at this table were slaves. So when you're sitting here in a country that feels as though that you are less than, and you want me to ask you for help, because you feel like I should need you because you have had 200 more years of opportunity than my people, it is like it does build up this thing in our community, and I can speak for the Black community, of having issues of pride, because we're like, no, I don't want to get help from them. They made me ask for help from them back in the day, and then we passed that on throughout the generations.
Right.
That it's like then we end up stunned ourselves, or we go from that perspective of, well, we just need to keep it in the family. Again, that came at that time from a place of protection. But as we evolve, that is no longer that. We're actually even causing harm to our own community, because some of the stuff you saying keep in the family, it was sexual abuse.
Right.
It was domestic violence. It was verbal abuse. It was whatever we can think of that you're saying keep all your stuff in the family, but the family, us doing that, has caused a fracture. It's a brokenness that if you don't speak out, it festers. It's like a fruit that becomes fermented, that you can no longer eat it, enjoy it in the same way as you did before, because it's now internally messed up.
And you're creating generational curses. So yeah, you keep it in the family, but not in the positive way that it should be sought out to get that help.
And this behavior just multiplies with the offspring, and I'm not saying everybody does that. They're not all going to be abusers themselves, but it's really hard to only know life one way, and then you come out and you're like, hold up, I was raised not like this, and this probably wasn't right. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Deidré.
Thank you for
We are falling forward with the Ross sisters.
I think this is another two-parter that we need to do, because I feel like we only a quarter of the way dipped a half an inch of a toe. I don't know. We accidentally dropped something in there and picked it back up, and we need to drop it in there and leave it there.
I have a lot more to say.
Yes, definitely.
Keep falling forward.
So exactly. So we'll pick this up next time. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.